Welcome everybody to the Beatdown. It is 11 a.m. Monday morning. Yep, that's what my watch says. So we're about to get this thing kicked off, get it started. It's gonna be a good show. We're gonna kind of break down a little bit of what happened Saturday night, and possibly talk about what's coming up. So I'm glad you guys have joined us. We're going to have a good time. That's what we're supposed to do, right? This is supposed to be fun, light, interesting, and try to make sure all those characteristics stay in there. Fun, light, and interesting. All right? I'll be right back on the other side of this so we can get this thing started. Boy, they hit the wrong button.
Introduce you to the greatest combat sports show bar none. You are now in the Beatdown.
You wanna get beat down?
Let us now introduce you to your host, the Badger, and
Hey, you know what time it is. I'm so glad you guys are joining. I'm here. It was a great weekend for MMA. It really was. Even though some of the fights were a little bit anticlimactic, but it was a great weekend for MMA. And then last night, AEW had their big Revolution pay-per-view. Usually they've been doing theirs on Sundays, or Saturdays rather. But last night they did it on a Sunday. I don't know the numbers, but I do know it was a pretty decent show. When I say pretty, it was good. It was a good show. That was the one that had the final match of the night was the exploding barbed wire death match. Interesting. It was interesting. They said it was the first time this match has happened in about 25 years. It was brutal. It was Jon Moxley trying to regain his AEW championship against Kenny Omega. It was very brutal. They had three sides of the ring. Had barbed wire wrapped around it, and then one side that just had the ropes where they could enter and exit. And when you hit the barbed wire, supposedly it caused an explosion. Pyrotechnics. They were like flashbangs, what they really were, and it was decent. It was real decent. It was one of those that, would I want to see it again? No, not at all. It wasn't one of those types of matches that I would really want to sit down and watch a second time. They even had barbed wire on the floor outside the ring. So, it was interesting. It was interesting. That's about all I can say in it. You could tell that at least Jon Moxley was covered. He looked like a crimson mass all over his face and his back and his arm. It was a brutal match. I just hope they don't try to keep doing these types of matches, because it wouldn't, to me, it cheapens your product. So that's what I'll give the pay-per-view for AEW a out of 5 stars, maybe 3.5, 4 stars. And it would have been better had they not done that type of match. But I know they sold a lot of streams based on that. So, what's going on, bro?
Not much, man. Not much at all. Happy to be here on a Monday, man. Technical difficulties earlier this morning, but it's all good. What's going on?
Just going over AEW's final match. I didn't really, I didn't want to cover the whole pay-per-view. It was a good pay-per-view. Just that exploding barbed wire death match, to me, just cheapened the pay-per-view. But I know a lot of people tuned in just to see what was going to happen.
I mean, but we talked about this earlier in the week when we discussed this AEW card. We talked about the pageantry or the production that surrounds these things, and then some of it was just kind of cheapening the product. So, I mean, to hear you say these things is not much of a surprise. But look, man, AEW's fan base, or wrestling in general, man, they have a pretty big young fan base to a lot of the younger kids, tweens and teens like WWE and wrestling and that. So maybe that works for some of them. I don't know. I know we talked about it, and I was like, coming from the days when I was actually engaged in the sport, we had antics, but nothing like this kind of stuff, which just seems a little bit too over the top. But again, it's all a theatrical production, so if it works, it works.
They were a lot of the people who are fans now, the younger fans. They got a lot of people our age watching too, which is weird. But
yeah, everybody, so to speak, really.
But the younger ones wouldn't remember the last one because the last one was in Japan 25 years ago. I think this is the first type of match that they've had on American soil. They may have been one here 25 years ago. I mean, they really don't have any barbed wire matches anymore. But this exploding type, this was one they did in Japan. This wasn't one they've done on this soil. Jim Ross had actually talked to Terry Funk. I don't know if you remember that name, the Funk brothers, Dory Funk and Terry Funk. They were just nasty, just mean, just mean.
Yeah.
But Terry Funk told Jim Ross, he's like, I would not have ever sanctioned another one of these barbed wire matches because no matter what you think of the sport, the people that do them aren't usually the same when they come out on the other side because everybody gets hurt. There's not you can't, how do you want to put it? It's not like you can wear a suit over your whole body and do the match. So at some point, your body's going to touch that barbed wire and it's going to rip your flesh and you're going to bleed profusely. And there's nothing you can do to stop that. Kenny Omega wrestled with his shirt on. Moxley started out with his shirt on, but he got ripped actually because of the barbed wire. Now, Omega may not have, his shirt may have been with a material to protect him, but his face got lacerated. His arms got lacerated. Moxley's face, like I said, was gashed open and on his forehead, and you could see where he was bleeding from his legs because the barbed wire, when he fell out the ring onto it, it cut through his jeans. And it's just like, if I'm in that sport, if I'm doing combat sports entertainment, I don't think you could pay me enough money to do it. Even the guys that come in with the barbed wire wrap bats and hit people, you couldn't pay me enough to do that. And it's not because I'm a punk or a wussy, or it serves no purpose. ECW built its reputation on those barbed wire type matches. They even had tables wrapped in barbed wire that were set up in the corner. I mean, it was over the top, bro. I as a wrestling fan, and maybe it's because of my age, I came through the hardcore era. I didn't like those matches back then. So, not a fan. So, look, your All-Star game happened last night.
It did indeed, brother. I didn't watch any of it. No 3-point contest, no anything else they did. I didn't watch anything, bro.
Boy from
I'm sorry.
boy from Altamont Springs, Florida, won the slam dunk competition.
Who was that?
Oh my gosh, I was hoping you remember. You watched it. I'm trying to remember his name.
Listen, bro. The pandemic has had an effect on a lot of us in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Sports like basketball and baseball and even hockey, everything but NFL really, where there's a very long marathon like regular season, you're going to lose people like me. I mean, the game already doesn't feel the same anyway, with just a style of play. This is definitely a style of basketball that's evolved from what we knew it as, even what we considered very good branded basketball in the early 90s, early 2000s. It's just so much different from that now, too. So I like the NBA. I like players. I don't follow it as much as I used to once Kawhi Leonard broke my heart. I'm not got back to it, bro. I've been trying to watch it more, but maybe the pandemic is part of the reason. Maybe the no fans in places just don't really feel like every game was like a glorified scrimmage to me. I'm not really into it. So because of that, I didn't really watch the All-Star Weekend, any of the festivities that I would normally either be personally partaking in or watching. I didn't do any of that. My family has a group chat online. They were talking about Gladys Knight. I guess she performed or sung the national anthem, what have you. I didn't see any of it, bro. So I don't know any of the winners, the losers. I know nothing.
Wow. Okay. And
listen, I am turning into slowly, bro. Follow me here. I'm turning into a combat sports lover and almost an isolationist, bro. I don't watch many sports anymore, bro. Even football got me. They got me when the playoffs started, and I think they got me because we live here in the city. So that whole thing just kind of had you kind of paying attention, even if you didn't really care. You were kind of watching with one eye open, so to speak. But yeah, bro, I'm just college football, just nothing, man. Just not really, and the business and everything we trying to do. I guess I don't have enough cares in the world to give around, especially not for that. So maybe I'll get back into it at some point. I don't know.
Well, they're allowing fans back for the second half of the season. So they actually had fans at the All-Star game yesterday.
That's okay, because we know the Rockets, the Spurs, and the Mavericks will sell out every game. Thank you, Governor Abbott. So yeah. Well, maybe that might draw me back. I might go to San Antonio to catch a game, bro. I've been a Spurs fan for a long time, bro. Might be my opportunity. Maybe now is the time.
Sure, go to COVID City. That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah. I was out there like early in the year, so came back pretty good. So
my sister lives there, and they don't really care. That's what
it's interesting, bro. It's interesting, and for the people in Texas, man, I don't know if I'm for it or against it, but it's interesting. I will give you that. I mean, they don't seems to be okay. I don't know who reports on the numbers from Texas or what, but
they don't care. Yeah. I mean, when I talk to her, they go to the beach, they go to the lake,
bro.
They go to festivals. They go.
You know who else doesn't care?
Florida.
Right. We don't care here, bro. So I can't sit here with you and wag my finger at Texas when, in all actuality, what's really changed for us, bro? Like we still have to wear a mask allegedly to get in certain places, but bro,
did you hear? Wait a minute. Did you say that?
Texas.
Did you hear what happened here in Tampa? I think it was it was actually in Texas. It was a Mexican restaurant where some Trump supporters came into the Mexican restaurant, and because the workers in there were wearing masks, they threatened to call ICE on the workers because they were wearing masks.
Didn't hear that.
It was a restaurant and bar. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
If you've ever been to Texas for any extended period of time, then you understand how dangerous something like this could be. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say not just Texas. I bet if you visit some parts of Florida, you kind of get the same reaction. Mm-hmm. That's wild, man. But at least for the duration of this particular show, because we can spread the hate, and I really don't want to do that because that is so over the top, ignorant. that is on some other stuff that happened. I don't even want to really get into that, bro, because that's nasty. And I don't want to give my real thoughts about that, especially not on air, bro. But that's crazy.
It is. It's disgusting, and I get what you're saying. I feel the same way. It's just it's disgusting.
Yeah, that's.
So let's
yeah.
Let's get into Saturday night. Again.
Let's talk about Saturday night, because I tell you what, Saturday night was everything but nothing at the same time.
Exactly.
Break that whole thing down.
Exactly.
We talk about it. So yeah, I'm here for it, bro. And yeah, I'm here.
It was everything and nothing at the same time.
And nothing at the same time.
Yes, that's probably the best way to put it.
Hashtag, y'all watch the pod. Hashtag watch the pod, because somebody gonna steal this, because I'm full of these today, right? My cup runneth over. Bro, I mean, we gonna be throwing these around all day. Y'all hashtag watch the pod. UFC, was it 259?
Yes.
UFC 259 was everything and nothing at the same time, bro. That indeed it was.
That's a good way to put it.
My phone was ringing. My phone was surprisingly dry after the fight, meaning I normally get about 4 or 5 phone calls from the same people after every fight, especially bigger fights, because 2 of the 4 people that call me are casuals. So the fact that my phone didn't ring after a fight like this with casuals, or a fight card like this, bro, said a lot about this card, and that's why, us saying what we just said makes so much sense here.
Yeah. Let's start off with the prelim main event.
Which one was that? 'Cause I think I might have caught that one. Was that
Dominic Cruz versus Casey Kenny?
I caught that. Okay, I caught that fight. Okay, that was the only one I saw on that card.
And the best part of the fight was his interview, at the in-ring interview after the fight, when he called out, I guess, the head of Monster.
Yeah. Listen, we know 2 things about Dominic Cruz. One is that he's a fighter, and he's a hell of a fighter. And 2, he doesn't have a problem really speaking his mind, especially when he feels like he's been wrong. He did this after the Henry Cejudo fight, bro. Are you surprised? I'm not. I think this is kind of good for Dominic Cruz. I mean, you're the number what? Where is he ranked?
I don't even know.
13, 11, outside of the top 10, right?
Yeah.
Or am I getting him confused with somebody else?
But
he's outside of the top 10, right?
He just lost to Henry Cejudo, but I think he's still in the top 10. Honestly, I don't see his ranking.
I hate when I ask these questions we don't know. That's my fault, bro. I should have been more prepared. But either way, for Dominic Cruz, this is a win because he's not the best in the division. We know that. And for someone like him that's been a vet and been in the game so long, just kind of keeps him relevant. And it was a good, solid win for him. I mean, Casey Kenny is not a world beater, but he's a solid fighter who had been on the road. He was a favorite of ours, especially with the regularity and frequency that he fought during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a good fight. I mean, Cruz clearly won. So, okay, what do we
I just want to talk about when he called out I wasn't disagreeing with the fight.
What's funny is, bro, I was in an establishment where I could not hear any of the commentary, so please indulge me. What did he say?
I can't remember the guy's name. If he was the head of Monster.
Don't need a name.
When they talked to Dana White afterwards, they were like, Dana, what do you? And Dana was like, a lot of guys have had issues with this man. Evidently, the guy still has power over their contracts, and in some way, and Dominic Cruz was like, I'm calling you out for just a celebrity fight, for an exhibition. You got me by 100 pounds, so close your mouth and get in the octagon, and we do this as a celebrity exhibition. But I believe, and you could pick a charity of your choice that the money goes to. He said, but I believe that it's time for you to atone for your actions. And it was just like, whoa. And the funny thing was, and I'm going to come back to this same point a little bit later, the commentary, Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, and John, I forgot. Yeah. They went right past it. They didn't want to deal with it. Joe was interviewing him, and Joe wanted to hurry up and get him off when he talked about it.
But, okay. So is this an instance where Dana White is trying to play chess? Because Dana White's in bed with Monster. They're one of the biggest sponsors of the UFC. So for him, so how much of this is legit in regards to how Dana White feels? Versus what we know, because we know that Dana White plays for keeps. We talked about these three main companies. I don't know who's jumped on since then. We talked about Monster. We talked about, at the time it was Metro PCS. I think now it's Toyo Tires. He enters these Reebok, who I guess has it's not a lifetime deal, but it's a very long-term deal with UFC. Bro, Dana White's got all his money up front from these guys. Is he really giving two shits about what what Dominic Cruz feels about come on, man.
No.
But I'm going to say these things because I have to look like I care about my fighters, right? I can't be Bob Arum.
Right. Yeah. Right. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Dana's responses sometimes are just like that. They're just wash. I say wash instead of ish. He wants to play like he's on the side of the fighters. But most fighters will tell you, once they get to a certain level and they realize where their obstacles are truly coming from, they don't trust him. But they've got to deal with him because he is the UFC. So that's when you have fighters that go over to Bellator. I'm sure Bellator has some similar issues, but most fighters seem happier at Bellator, especially when they're not, I don't want to say household names anymore, but they don't have the star power anymore. I think it's funny that Dana White did make the comment, and we'll talk about it after we go through the Amanda Nunes fight, how rough and how bad of a fighter, bad isn't good, Amanda Nunes is. And he talked about Chris Cyborg showing up at the fight with a van, her promotional van, and parked it right outside the fight. And Dana said, you know what, I got to tip my hat off to her because I sent a promotional video out this week showing her getting knocked out in 57 different angles. So this is the way she responds.
Whoa. Listen, bro, we're gonna listen, hashtag watch the pod. Dana wins again, bro. We're gonna keep beating this drum because for the things that we just talked about literally 2 minutes ago, now we're gonna talk about how he managed to win again, right?
He is
all this works for him. All this works for him. Chris Cyborg being a legitimate threat or a perceived legitimate threat to Amanda Nunes, no matter what, because and we'll get into this, I'm sure, fairly soon now, probably, the way she blows through her opponents. Why not Chris Cyborg, bro? I'm pretty sure she'd probably run through all these women that Amanda has beaten. She did. Well, she hasn't fought a couple of them. But
she handled the division the same way.
Yeah, when it was her, during her reign, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, this probably needs to happen if, listen, and follow me when I say this. When you're selling a fight, you're selling the optics. You're not selling to the hardcore fan unless it's a true 50-50 fight. Mm-hmm. Or maybe even a good 60-40 fight. If it's not any of that, then we're selling this to Joe Blow. We're selling this to the armchair quarterback, the casual, the decaf, as they say on some of these platforms. Bro, Chris Cyborg looks the part. She looks the part. Even if Amanda Nunes knocked her out 6 years ago, whatever that was, she still looks the part. And she's been blowing through everybody she's been fighting. So, okay, I can window dress this and make this make sense, just like I would in another fight where I'm putting a current champion in with a former champion or a rematch. So it works.
I just don't think Dana's going to let that rematch happen. Not until Amanda really lets him know if she's going to retire or not. If Amanda says, Dana, this is my last year, guarantee you in December, it will be a fight between Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg.
Yeah, I mean, this fight, it doesn't have to happen, but it should happen just to kind of put a bow on either woman's career. We're going to always view Amanda Nunes as the greatest MMA woman on the women's, no, just period, one of the greatest MMA practitioners, period. If she beats Chris Cyborg twice, then I guess now we only talk about Amanda Nunes in regards to the John Jones and the Demetrius Johnsons and the George St. Pierres of the world, because, bro, if she beats, she's already clearly better than Chris Cyborg. We know that. But if she gets in there and she fights Cyborg again and she washes her, bro.
Have you seen Chris lately?
It doesn't matter.
No, it does matter.
Worse.
It does matter. Have you seen any of her?
It only matters if the person that Chris Cyborg lost to doesn't look as good as she did when she beat her. Amanda Nunes looks great. Chris Cyborg looks good too, but Chris Cyborg doesn't look like she's better than Amanda Nunes. But I do think that this fight.
Have you seen her fight though recently? That's my question. It does matter when you pertaining to this question.
I've watched the highlights of her last couple of Bellator fights, and she's looked great.
She's actually added to her game, which I think would be. Again, Amanda Nunes was one up on her. There was no way even a Chris Cyborg fan could say anything on that. She beat her legitimately. She knocked her out.
But I'm not. Listen. The way Chris Cyborg got destroyed, you don't want to build a narrative about how much better she is now, or that she's better. You just want to build a fight as a rematch, as a redemption. Because if you tell me that she's better, then I'm gonna go to the eye test. And because you're a little biased towards Cyborg, you want to get into the nuts and bolts of what she's doing. I'm looking at the fact that she got brutally and devastatingly knocked out when they fought. Yes, she looks better, but Amanda Nunes looks just as good.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, Amanda looks just as good as she did at the time. Yes. What I'm saying is,
see the fight because my optics tell me that Chris Cyborg is probably the toughest woman out there. You're not going to tell me that she's a much better fighter. I'm saying that I'm looking at Chris Cyborg and from the optics and from what she's done in Bellator and what she did before she ran into Amanda Nunes. Why not give her the chance? Because I don't see anybody else we got out here beating her. That's all you're selling me on, and I'll buy that. I will buy that. But don't try to tell me that because she's done good in Bellator and that she's got a better game, that I should think that.
What I'm telling you is,
just being in a fight.
What I'm telling you is, she didn't just say, "Okay, I got beat. Let me just go carry on the same game. Now I have to go to Bellator." Chris has actually gotten better as far as with her training. She's had to, because up until the Nunes fight, they used to have to pay women a little extra and force them to get in the ring and fight her, because in the octagon and fight her. She met Nunes, smaller woman. Nunes has that devastating overhand right. Chris fought to her game. Chris got knocked out. There were no excuses. Am I a Cyborg fan? Absolutely. But do I have to give credence to Amanda Nunes? Absolutely. Because right now, she is the GOAT. I didn't realize she's had 9 title defenses since 2016, I think it was.
Yeah, I don't know how you missed that.
Well, I knew she had several. I knew she had several. They'll throw people on the list that don't deserve to be on the list. So
no, I'm talking about just strictly what her record of defenses. I ain't talking about nothing else. But in her title defenses, she's right there.
And she and Henry Cejudo are the only ones to win titles in 2 divisions and defend them in 2 divisions. Now, Henry only did it once, if I'm not mistaken, and then retired. She's done it several times, and there's nobody. They're talking about her going back to 135 and Valentina Shevchenko coming up to 135 for a rematch. That's how weak the divisions are. And I'm not saying they're weak because nobody's in them. Nobody's at her level. Absolutely nobody that I've seen in the UFC is close to Amanda Nunes level. Speaking of that, I was going to wait and take the fights in order, but you see how she devastated Megan Anderson?
Yeah, and we knew this before the fight started. Not that we're gonna sell the fight short, but I said it, and you agreed. It wasn't about anything with Megan Anderson other than can she do what she needs to do to make this fight competitive, and she didn't. The first thing she did was give up her reach, and we said that going into the fight.
She fought
she's
small.
Tall,
I'm
she's
like,
long, but
what are you doing?
But like I said, it's in between having it and then having it and being able to use it. Much like having a gun and not getting a drop on a person that already has one. Dang. She had the tools, but she didn't put them to use. It was over before it got started, bro. When that first kick and jab came out, I was like, well, what is she doing? What is she doing? And she closed the gap just like I knew she would because she wasn't throwing the jab. She wasn't keeping her at distance. She cracked it twice. The third time it was over with.
Yeah.
So,
when she did the wobble and it spun around after she hit her, I was like, she's out on her feet. She literally. And then she tried to grab her.
And the thing about the fight is, I wonder, like you said, it's not much of a proving ground in women's MMA. That's the difficulty, and that's just the nature of the sport. You have to get more women involved, and you have to start getting women involved at an earlier age. So that way, you yield a better group or a more well-rounded and athletic group of fighters. We've seen the strides that have happened on the women's side in the last 5 years. So imagine how much better sports going to be in 5 more years. Unfortunately for Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko and Holly Holm and all these great women that have kind of spilled their blood to make this sport as respectable as it is, to make the sport just as good as the men's. That's another win for Dana White and UFC. And on top of that, bro,
let's look at what it is.
I just think
there's a reason why you keep mentioning Valentina Shevchenko, Holly Holm. There's a reason why we keep mentioning them over and over again.
Very top heavy. Yeah.
And very light at the top.
Very top heavy. You got 5 or 6 women. That's all you have.
In 3 divisions.
You said right. They're spread across. Right. They're spread across multiple divisions. So yeah, bro, I'm with you on that. Megan Anderson, and we can say this now that the fight is over. I think we both knew that she was not ready for this fight. This is what we have to get better as being analysts on this show and talking about the sport in the way that we do. We don't make predictions on the show, but I think I don't like to be so demonstrative, but I try to say things subtly, but I'm going to be more outspoken about certain things, bro. We knew she wasn't ready for this fight. We talked about it off air, and she went in there, she got wiped out, but that doesn't mean that Megan Anderson goes back to the drawing board. You cast her out, bro. She's a great fight for a lot of these other women, just not Amanda Nunes. And maybe not Valentina Shevchenko, but we saw her in a good fight against Holly Holm, although it's an aging Holly Holm, right? Who's not the same fighter she was 4 or 5 years ago, but, just a solid fighter. So I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, but yeah, Megan.
Pull the plug, let it go down the drain.
She's not on the level of Amanda Nunes. We saw that, but I think she's still a legit UFC fighter. The only problem with Megan Anderson is she can't go down. She can't suck down any smaller than what she is, bro. Do you see the size difference?
Yeah.
That size difference was just as big as the Blachowicz Adesanya size difference. So, I mean, for Megan, I think she just goes back to the drawing board and just tries to be the second best person at 145, bro. That's what she has to do because she can't go down. So
either that or she goes up.
Maybe
Cyborg did, and they created a division for her because
Chris Cyborg did.
Yeah, because Cyborg, they created the 145 division for Chris Cyborg.
Yeah. And the thing about that is Cyborg is not tall. Megan Anderson looks like she's a legit 6 foot. She looked like a 6 footer out there. So yeah, it's gonna be doubly hard for her. So yeah, but let's see her again. We had to get this, and all intents and purposes, bro. Don't shake your head. This is a business. We know how this goes. Amanda's entitled to how many fights a year? 3. Let's get the ball rolling. Go and get this first one out of the way. I'm okay with this, bro. Megan, we'll see you in 6 months. Now the next question is, if not Chris Cyborg, and that's probably not going to be likely on the next fight, then who's next, bro?
That's what I'm telling you. They're boosting up Valentina Shevchenko to come up to 135 for a rematch and it's funny, the commentators, it's an agenda because the commentators started talking about that during the match. That the only woman who really matches up with her in any way, shape, or form, excuse me, is Valentina Shevchenko. And
Bro.
she has to come up to 135.
Bro.
And I guarantee that's who you'll see.
Listen, bro. I'm going to say this for everybody in the back. Bro, she's been Valentina twice.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Both times were a decision, right?
The last time they keep saying it was a very close decision. And I'm like, but she won. It's not like this is a triple header or a trilogy that really needs to happen, but there's nobody else for her to fight. Unless you want to just go ahead and suck it up and get in there.
I like Valentina.
She gets destroyed, bro.
I was about to say that, bro. And I wasn't gonna say it in those words. I was gonna say it like this. I don't know how many of those right hands she can take. Because she's gonna get hit with them. And I don't know how many she takes. Maybe she takes 2, 4 tops before she breaks. Bro, Amanda punches so hard, bro. Like so accurate. Like the punch is just it's flush. It's always flush.
You're gonna need somebody who can box, who can legit box and wrestle.
Yeah, but that's a lot. That's a lot. And those are growing trees.
You're gonna need someone who can do that, who can and who can throw inside and outside calf kicks. But somebody with the length of a Megan Anderson, but who understands you don't give up your height. But when you see that overhand right coming, you go down under it and you go to the body. That's why I said somebody who can box. And you move, you circle, you get out of the way, and you got to use your jab. Amanda is a striker. Amanda is not a boxer. We talked about this when Tyron Woodley was going to train Andre Ward. I don't know if you remember that. When there were talks of Andre Ward coming to MMA, we talked about this, that he would have an advantage over most guys in that division because if you taught him takedown defense and how to defend those calf kicks, he would be so much more advanced because of his ability to box and understand the whole art of striking. If there's a woman out there that you could train to do that, again, she's gonna have to eat 1 or 2 of them because Amanda throws overhand rights like people throw rice at a wedding or people throw shade at me on this show. You're gonna get it no matter what. So you're gonna have to learn how to roll with some of them. You're gonna have to learn how to combat it with punches of your own going to the body. Because when she throws the overhand right, she's very susceptible to a left hook right in the ribs, or even a right in the ribs, because she's not a boxer, she's a striker, and that's the downfall of a striker. They don't have boxing defense.
We can move on to the next one, bro, because all that sounds good, but that's a unicorn you're talking about. And it goes back to my point, what I said earlier. We'll see that probably in the next 5 years. By that time, Amanda will be riding off into the sunset, retired and very wealthy with her family. It's probably so will Holly Holm. All these women we're talking about, bro, these women in their mid-30s, early to mid-30s. They won't be around in 5 years, but that fighter you're talking about is in the gym right now, probably a junior or a senior in high school, or maybe in middle school. We'll see her in 5 or 6 years. That fight doesn't exist right now, at least not in the level to beating Amanda Nunes or any of the other women you're talking about. So
we'll see.
Good luck.
All right,
you find that, bro.
Alexander Rakic defeated Thiago Santos by decision.
Yeah, Santos did himself no obligations in that fight. He came in, I think, as a second ranked light heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just kind of got out hustled a little bit. I mean, it was a very lackluster fight. I watched it, but I didn't watch it with the intent that I watched the Dominic Cruz fight. I expected more from Santos. To be honest, bro, he held his own against John Jones. He basically nullified John. He didn't do much himself, but he was able to kind of nullify Jones. He was the first person since Gustafsson that we saw, because wasn't Santos right before the Anthony Smith fight with John Jones? If he wasn't right before, he was right after. Those were those series of 3 or 4 fights we saw. We were like, wait a minute, is John not as good anymore? Is he slowing down? Santos was one of those first guys that we saw that was like, oh, I mean, he lost the fight, but he didn't really do a whole lot. So I was disappointed. I was expecting more from Santos than what I got. Shouts out to Rachix, who was the better man, bro. That's pretty much all I got to say about that fight.
Islam Makhachev defeated Drew Dober. Islam, another disciple of Habib's father. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. He got him by an arm triangle, round 3, 137. Nice. Yeah.
It was so tight. It was tight. It was beautiful. And look, Drew knew what it was. He tapped fairly quickly. Yeah. Like, I don't even think it was in all the way. He was already tapping. Because if you've never been put in a body triangle, bro, I mean, all chokes are suffocating. But it's something about getting caught in a body triangle when it just drives down into, you just get it all in your chest like that. It's like, yeah, you got to tap.
I don't know which one I want.
Now the good stuff.
I think
go in order.
No, we kind of been out of order. Okay, we'll do.
We can go back.
Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan. I talked about this fight yesterday. Petr Yan was winning the fight. He was winning on 2 scorecards. He 29-28 through 3 rounds. Aljo was winning on 1 scorecard, 29-28. But Petr Yan was clearly winning the 4th round. So on 1 scorecard, he would have been tied, and the other ones he'd have been up. He'd have been up again by 2 rounds. So, and even Aljamain said he thought he was down by 2 rounds. What happened in that sequence of events where he threw that devastating knee, and I mean, he put Aljamain on Queasy Street for real while his knees were down. Now, if you looked at any of the post-fight interviews, you heard Jan's description, Petr Yan's description of what happened. He says he didn't communicate with his corner before he hit him, but they have clear audio where he did. Do you put this on the fighter, or do you put this on the corner who told him his main trainer said punch him while he was down, which is legal, and Al was looking for the punches. Somebody else yelled out, yes, kick him. My question to you is, before we get into the commentary, because I think the commentary is a bunch of crap. I agree with Chael Sonnen on what happened as far as with the commentators. Do you believe that in any way Petr Yan did not know what he was doing was illegal to cost him his belt?
I don't think it matters. I think the right decision was made. I think it took far too long. The UFC did themselves no favors. That fight should have been stopped immediately. And the winner should have been Aljamain Sterling. That is a clear rule. You're told about it in the fighter meetings. Bro, I've been in locker rooms where they will come back and remind every fighter before each fight. You have a fighter meeting before the fight where all the fighters are standing in a room and they talk about the rules. Mm-hmm. They vary slightly from state to state, but in no state are you going to go to where you can throw a knee on a grounded opponent, period. So I don't care about any other stuff. None of it matters. Who told him what? As a fighter, Petr Yan has to be more aware of what's going on. He made a mistake and it cost him his belt. Now, as far as the fight goes, this was a good fight. This is a competitive fight.
Yeah.
We saw clearly what the 2 agendas was. Aljamain's agenda was what you said it was going to be. Keep Petr Yan off balance, use your athleticism, throw knees, punches, kicks, and elbows from wherever you can. What was Petr Yan's objective? Slow the fight down, walk him down, and then punish him. It was a good fight. Who was up at the time? Maybe Petr Yan. I can make a case for Aljo because he was very active. He was trying. it looks like Peter was starting to wear him down because Alex Raven really started getting tired and was throwing a lot of arm punches that had nothing on him. But it was a good fight. They got it right. I think it took too long. This will be a rematch. Both guys will be better prepared when it happens, and then we'll get the true winner. Other than that, whatever happened, and I'm okay with the results of it.
Listen, I agree with Chael Sonnen about this. He talked about, I forgot who he said was disqualified. Oh, he used Mike Tyson as an example. Mike lost his license for 11 months after biting Evander Holyfield's ear twice when he got disqualified. He said, but how can our commentators get on here and say, hey, it should be an immediate rematch? Even Joe Rogan said he doesn't agree with Petr Yan losing his belt. And Cormier had to remind him, look, he got disqualified. Yes, you can lose your belt on a disqualification, Joe.
Roy Jones Jr. disqualified against Montel Griffin, hit him while he was down.
Yeah.
Roy was pound for pound the best fighter in the world at the time and was the man. He lost.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with John Jones? Wasn't it a similar situation?
No. John wasn't a champion. John was fighting Mark the Hammer Hamill. And even the interesting thing in this situation is even the commentators and Dana White, well, you know, we'll take Dana out of the equation, but even your commentators didn't agree with the disqualification when he hit the kid Mark Hamill in the back of the head with an elbow. Yeah. Because it looked like it was on the side. The ref saw him hitting him on the back of the head, but it was really on the side. Didn't really warn him, just disqualified him.
Well, what I'm saying, well then thank you for that, bro. You just educated me. I knew about the elbow. I didn't know about the whole history and the context behind it. Point made. But in this particular case, bro, I think when you hear somebody like Joe Rogan, who is a practitioner, but never on a professional level and has a lot of experience calling these fights, sometimes it's the excitement of the moment. That's why you have DC there. He's the veteran. He has all the real firsthand experience. He's the champion. He is the expert extraordinaire. Then you have John Ennett, who's there to bring it all together, right? He's the color guy. Bro, I'm not mad at Joe. I think Joe got caught in the moment. Joe Rogan says a lot of stuff, especially when these fights, like, whoa, did you see that? Oh, and he'll say like, Joe, that's not. When he said, well, you know, when I go back and look at it again, I saw this. I'm okay with it. The good thing about this, bro, is they got it right. He was DQ'd. It's all that matters. Let's get the immediate rematch.
I don't even think he needs, honestly, that's my opinion. I don't believe he deserves an immediate rematch.
Well, here's the thing. The only reason why I say that is because I don't know. I just don't think either guy wants to win it or lose it like that. Both of these guys have a lot of respect for each other. They really want to fight this thing out.
That has no merit in the conversation.
And from a business perspective,
that has no merit in the conversation.
From a business perspective, I think Joe Public wants a rematch. Your fans want a rematch. This is not a questionable fight. He got DQ'd, but let's be clear. He got DQ'd because he was trying to win a fight. I don't think he did it.
No. He did not get DQ'd just because he was trying to win a fight. He got DQ'd because he broke a rule that he knew was a rule. I don't care what he says. Every fighter knows. Every fighter. And you ask your corner. Should I kick him?
I don't care about what he said.
Of course you don't. Because it doesn't make your point.
It does make my point. He was doing what he was doing to try and win a fight in the moment of combat. Just like when players. Just listen. This is a fight, bro. And that's why there are rules.
But there were rules. The rules and consequences. You've got to have consequences to your rules. Okay, I just lost my fight, but I know I can beat him. So let me get my immediate rematch.
Why doesn't he deserve? Petr Yan doesn't have a history of being a dirty fighter.
It doesn't matter.
Why does he not deserve? I'm asking you a question. I said, why doesn't he deserve? Why does he not deserve an immediate rematch? Because he got DQ'd?
Because you clearly did that intentionally. There was nothing.
Jones punched Montel Griffin while he was down. They had an immediate rematch.
Does it make it right? No. No, it doesn't make it right.
What made
It's
it
time
right,
we start
bro, was
getting
him
it right.
really- What made it? They got it right. They DQ'd him and he lost his belt. That has nothing to do why it shouldn't be a rematch. What are you talking about?
Listen.
They got it right. They
Listen.
punished him. They took his belt, bro.
So
In a fight that you said he was
So-
probably winning, and the other judge
he was
said
winning.
So yes.
So any
yes, justice was served.
any champion who finds themselves in jeopardy can get DQ'd and say, okay, my bad. But let me get that. Let me run it back.
Bro, Peter Yan did not need Aljamain Sterling because he probably felt like he was using the fight in desperation. This was in the 4th round, bro. He did it. It was a mistake. He got DQ'd.
It was not a mistake.
He
A
doesn't
mistake
have the
is
history.
a mistake is doing something that you don't know is illegal. That's a mistake. This was not a mistake.
Bro.
You had a man in a defenseless position,
Bro,
and you
I
asked
was
your
working
corner. You
was
asked your
working your
corner.
corner.
You asked your corner because you knew it was wrong.
So let me give you some firsthand knowledge because I'm going to give you some firsthand knowledge.
Come on.
I was working a corner of a fighter that I managed in another country in a championship sanctioned MMA fight. The guy that threw the knee, that when he threw the knee on a grounded opponent, they warned him. But what the referee said was, I could have stopped the fight for that, but the reason why I didn't is because you got 15,000 people in this audience. None of us would have made it out if I would have stopped that fight. He could have stopped it because it was an illegal knee and the opponent was grounded in a championship fight, and we could have come home with a loss in our record with a DQ. The ref decided to warn him and not stop the fight, and that's what happened. But by your logic, we could have lost a championship fight.
Yeah.
On a mistake that a veteran fighter made.
Right.
And if you want to sit here and tell me that my guy did it because he was purposely trying to cheat and when I'm like, no, it happened in the heat of the moment. And as soon as he threw the knee, he backed up and was like, oh, my bad, than me.
That's bull.
It happens, bro.
It does, and it needs to be punished. So whether it's your fighter or somebody else's fighter, when it happens, it needs to be punished. I agree with Chael Sonnen on this
Are
one.
we banning Peter Yan?
We're gonna if I'm Dana White, I'm suspending him.
For how long?
I would suspend him for 6 months. No activity for 6 months. You won't do this again.
If he doesn't
You won't do this again.
No activity for 6 months.
Right.
So then in September, why does Aljamain Sterling ain't fighting again for 6 months? So why does that not make sense?
If Al decides not to fight for 6 months.
Main event.
If Al does not decide to fight for 6 months, I'm definitely going to suspend him. Do I keep him as the number 1 contender? I may drop his ranking. This is something that is look, when you got people walking around here talking about, well, for business reasons, you shouldn't do that. There's a rule in place for a reason. I don't care what the ref did in your man's fight. I don't care for his reasoning.
It's the referee's call, bro.
And this referee didn't want to make the call.
Why did Holyfield's ear get bit twice? Because Mills Lane didn't stop it after the first time he got bit. He could have stopped it then, he didn't.
And he's talked about that. He's talked about that since. Mills Lane has talked about that since. He said he thought he actually considered stopping it after the first one, but he was in shock himself.
Let's get on to the main event because all these things
is
are
crazy,
judgment
bro.
caused by the ref.
This is crazy. It's crazy the fact that I just it's insane that this is even up for debate. You need somebody in a defenseless position.
I'm just trying to figure out.
I would have stopped the fight him. I would have if I was the management of the guy your fighter was fighting and did it, we would have stopped in protest at that point. We would have stopped in protest at that point.
And you could have done that, bro. All I'm saying
because
is
I care more about the fighter than the purse.
No, you
Go
don't,
ahead,
because
bro.
you're the same guy that talks about how you don't get any soft touches and fighters should fight to the death. Get out of here. You're being ridiculous. But listen, I will say this,
talking about?
I think
What BS did you pull out?
Bro, you're the same guy that doesn't believe that fighters should be able to get mandatory soft touches.
If you're the champ, no. If you're the champ, you need to fight who's next.
Guess what?
But you can't kneel.
Guess what Aljamain didn't do? He didn't beat the champ because you said he was down the scorecards. So how many times you want to?
He was down on 2 of them. He was up on 1. Go ahead.
How many? He was still losing the fight as we judge. That's a mandatory win for Peter Young.
If he hadn't need him, yeah.
How many times you want to punish him? You took his belt. That was you want to suspend him?
Yeah.
Twice? Okay. Main event talk. Adesanya, Blachowicz, Polish power against the skill of Adesanya. This fight played out the way it probably should have. A good man beats a good big man beats a good little man every time, bro. How you feel about this fight?
It exposed Adesanya more than it propped up Blachowicz. We knew Blachowicz had power. I did find out that he had more wrestling skill. He didn't show a lot of wrestling skill, but he was able to take Izzy down based on Izzy's lack of, what's the word I'm looking for? Izzy's used to being able to just bend his body and, he doesn't circle as much. Well, he does, but he likes to get in there and let you swing and miss and this. And Blachowicz was like, you're off center. I could take you down. If I throw a punch and come right in with a takedown. And the fact that he had Izzy by probably at least 20 pounds. But I believe, honestly, this is my opinion. When I looked at this, when I looked at the fight, I believe that fight at least was a draw. At least. Because Daniel Cormier made one statement, and I was watching the fight with the Red Belly, and the Red Belly had Blachowicz winning 48-47. And I said, well, Izzy to me won the first 3 rounds. If you gave Blachowicz anything, you would have given him maybe it was a 10-10 round in 2. But I don't think he clearly beat Izzy in round 2. Izzy was still controlling the octagon. And then when you look at round 3, yes, Blachowicz took him down with 3 minutes left in the round. So you got 3 minutes of octagon control. Izzy was beating you the first 2 minutes on the feet. But you got 3 minutes of octagon control. I got to give you round 4. You did a great job in round 4. Round 5, he took Izzy down with 2.5 minutes remaining, right? That's half the round, correct? There are 5-minute rounds. Okay. So Izzy was clearly beating you for 2.5 minutes on the feet. There was nothing you could do with him. Izzy got careless, let you take him down. Izzy could not get up. So because you held him down for 2.5 minutes, they gave you the entire round. Now he was hitting you from the bottom, but you really didn't do a lot from the top until the last 10-15 seconds when you started dropping successful elbows at the end of the fight. I don't agree as a wrestler. I know it sounds crazy for me to say it, but I believe octagon control was something implemented in the UFC to level the playing field for people who weren't good on the feet. I had Izzy winning the fight 48-47 or at the most a draw. But
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, we can just put a bow in it, bro. A good big man beats a good little man. That was just the story of the fight, bro. Izzy did his thing, but to no effect. None of that matters because Blachowicz was just bigger and stronger. And when Izzy started to make mistakes and got just slightly fatigued, you saw what happened. I'm okay with the decision. It just lets you know that how special you have to be, bro, to be a double champ. To be able to be a champ in 2 weight classes at the same time, it takes a special type of fighter. Izzy is great, but he is not who we thought he was as far as being a double champ. I don't even know if he beats another elite guy at 205 because, bro.
Yes, he does.
Because I'm looking at Jan Blachowicz, and Jan Blachowicz did what he wanted to do in the fight. He implemented his game plan. He never really let the punches from Izzy really bother him. The leg kicks, I think, affected him a little early on, but once he got
cracked with punches several times. And I'm just going by I'm not even going by what I thought happened. I'm going by also.
I'm not debating that.
Go ahead.
What I said was to no effect. He hit him clean a couple times. We cut him once. He was eating those shots. That was bro. When you look at the massive size difference between those men when that fight started, there is no way in high hell that anybody thought that unless Izzy got a choke in some type of way, that he was gonna knock. Bro, Blachowicz was never even in any danger in this fight, bro. Even when he was getting hit clean, he was just okay. And he worked his game from the court. And I'm like, listen, I'm taking nothing away from Adesanya. I'm taking nothing away from Blachowicz. I think they're the two best fighters in the world at their weight classes, and that's all. That's it. A good 205er beats a good 185er every day of the week. I don't care how their styles match up. If I'm the world champion this weight class and you're the world champion this weight class, I should beat you because I'm bigger. Just like the best heavyweight in the world should beat the best light heavyweight in the world. There will be exceptions, and it's maybe the case with John Jones.
We're going to find out.
But this is why they have weight classes, bro. And that's all we learned from this fight. Izzy is not going to beat Jan Blachowicz 10 out of 10 times. That fight's going to play out probably the same way because he doesn't have the strength or the power. He may cut Blachowicz some more. What happens if Blachowicz lands clean on Adesanya?
He did.
What happens then? We know that Blachowicz knocks you out with successive punches, bro.
Yeah, successive punches.
Right. Izzy's not gonna let you land those on him.
Right.
But what if he does, bro?
Oh, man,
because we saw Izzy. Because we saw Izzy do his best. And it didn't work, bro. And let's be honest about this too. Izzy is not the best on the ground. When Izzy was on
That's what I was trying to get to.
His BJJ is not good enough to get him out of fights with bigger men. This is why I go back to my point. A good big man beats a good small man. If Izzy's a black belt in BJJ and the big man's a good brown belt, bro, it's going to be a wash because I'm bigger and I'm stronger. End of discussion. This fight, maybe Blachowicz bleeds a little bit more next time. Izzy's not going to beat him. If they fight again, he's just too big and too strong.
Well, they're
too
not
good of a fighter in his particular skill set.
They're not going to fight again.
So not let Izzy get him out of his game.
I'm not taking anything from Blachowicz. What I will take from what I did see in the fight was Blachowicz doesn't beat John Jones.
Nobody ever said he would.
Yes, they did.
Which is why nobody cared. Nobody cared about John's phone. Listen, stop. When Blachowicz called John Jones out after he beat Dominic Reyes, nobody cared. John Jones didn't even care. He was ringside, bro. John had already had his eyes set on the heavyweight division. I doubt if John Jones ever fights John Blachowicz. Just for the record, especially if he wins his first fight at heavyweight, he's not coming back down to fight John Blachowicz. That fight's never gonna happen.
I think it's very interesting because what I was making when I made the statement, what I was saying is I don't think John Jones. I don't think Jan Blachowicz beats John Jones, and it was clear with all the rhetoric that they were trying to get Izzy and John to fight. It was just even the Red Belly said, "Man, this is a good thing that John wasn't fighting either one of these guys because they would have both been exposed." I looked at it. I saw what Izzy was able to do. I have a hard time wrapping my brain around the fact that he lost the fight. I know he lost the fight. Even somebody chimed in yesterday during the fight and said they had it at a 48-48 draw.
So did I.
And I could defend. I could get behind. Even if you don't give Izzy the fight 48-47, I believe it should have been ruled at least a draw.
And let's be clear about this, bro. Look,
but it would have ruined. Let me finish. It would have ruined the 205 division.
If Izzy would have won,
if Izzy had won, or if Izzy had gotten a draw. Because of the prevailing thought.
What ruined the 205 division was that BS fight on the prelim card. Your second best light heavyweight looked like that. Bro.
You have Izzy come up from 185. Izzy is a true 185 pounder, right? True. He had to gain weight to get to 201. And you're right. It looked like a bully, a fifth grader fighting a third grader at lunchtime. That's what it looked like. I think it exposed Jan in his lack of development. He still has a ways to go, but he's 38 years old. He's not going to get any better. He's right now as good as he could be. Stop. It showed really where Jan was as a champion. Is anybody else at 205 going to have the skill set of Izzy? No. Jan is enough right now. I don't know who at 205 really beats him. But does he look devastating? No.
He never looked devastating. He has 8 losses. The verdict is out on Jan Blachowicz. He's not a world beater. He's not an undefeated fighter. He has chinks in his armor. Izzy just can't beat him. There's a size difference, bro.
There is a size difference, but look, by the scorecards, they had that man losing 49-45 on somebody's scorecard.
Bro, if we want to debate the BS of the card, we can do that. I agree with you. I thought the scorecards were ridiculous. We didn't win the fight. It was a draw. And let's keep this in mind, too, from a business perspective, bro. Jan Blachowicz is the champion.
So is Izzy.
He's okay. And guess what you have to do to beat the champ? You have to beat the champ. Izzy didn't beat him. That rule is in effect anytime there's a championship fight, bro. If you're going to let it go down to the judges' cards, more than likely,
it's going to the
champ's going to win. Yeah, unless you just, and he didn't do that. So that puts a bow in that discussion, but we ran over today. Bro, UFC went down as a like we said in the early beginning of the show, everything and nothing at the same time. Do we have anything to look forward to this week, bro? I know we got some to look forward to this week. We got some boxing this week, don't we? Yeah, because we were talking about the whose fight that we thought was last week and it's actually this weekend. Was that the Jamel Herring Carl Frampton fight?
That's a good question. I think so.
Okay. Well, even if it ain't, we gonna pretend like it is, bro. We got some good boxing coming up this week. And we got some good fights coming up the week after that, the 22nd. I think that's the Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor fight.
Before we get off of MMA, your boy Leon Edwards fights this week against Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. We can talk about that tomorrow.
Wasn't Leon supposed to be fighting for a title?
Yeah, but all that got switched around when Chimaev got sick, and now they saying he might end up a fight again. So yeah, all that got kind of, because you're supposed to fight Chimaev, remember?
Yeah.
So Leon's just getting bounced around, but yeah.
And your boy Dan Eag fights. And
yeah,
I thought
we talk about all that.
And Angela Hill's supposed to be on this card, but they still don't have her listed. Darn.
No real big blockbuster names in MMA this week, but a good quality card. And I'll be tuned in, want to see where Leon Edwards falls. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like. He ain't falling forever, so
yeah, definitely
be tuned in to see that.
Yeah. Now, March 27th, just want to let y'all know, that's the next big UFC card, UFC 260. Right now, they got 2 title fights on that we're going to break down, when we get closer to it. Stipe Miocic fights Francis Ngannou. Alexandra Volkanovski fights Brian Ortega. That's going to be a good fight. So, looking forward to it. And then Bellator comes in right after that. That's when the big Bellator series jumps in. But you were talking about boxing. Look, we're over. I guess tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You talking about UFC. Like, don't worry about it. We'll get to it tomorrow because you went other way with it. But go ahead.
What? Yeah,
you went other way with it, bro. I was trying to talk about boxing. You're like, well, let's go back to MMA in 3 weeks. I'm like, bro, we got boxing this week. What are you talking about? And then Leon Edwards and your boy. So
yeah, well, I'm urging you to do your homework, come in with the fights. So if I do that again, then you're prepared to go ahead and say, hey, they fight on this date. Let's just deal with boxing. But yes, we got fights coming up on the 10th, the 12th. Wow, it's going to be a busy, even Thursday. Now, here's what I don't understand. There was a fight that was supposed to be on NBC last Thursday. Couldn't find it. Couldn't find it. Even looked on NBC sports channels, couldn't find it. But Showtime has a fight on Thursday. And we'll get into that. Brendan Lee versus Samuel Tay.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
So, look, please come back tomorrow, 11 a.m. where we won't be arguing as much with each other. We'll actually stick to the important stuff, which is the fights that are going on. We appreciate you. I had a story for you in tribute to my friend over here, but I guess I'll have to wait and get that in tomorrow because it was actually a pretty decent one. It sounded like you talking to a young man. Matter of fact, I'll throw it right in. This teenager went to the doctor. Says, Doc, says something's wrong. Doctor says, what's wrong? He says, my girlfriend told me she's pregnant, but we've been using protection. He said, well, sometimes condoms break. Doc, that's just it. The condoms have never broken. Not one time. And we've been together for 6 months, and now she's pregnant. He says, well, let me tell you a story. This avid hunter used to go out every weekend, and he would go hunting lions. And this one weekend, he grabbed his umbrella instead of his gun. And when he got out in the jungle, he's walking through the jungle with his umbrella, and he sees a lion. And he points his umbrella at the lion, and the lion looks up at him, and the lion charges him. And he squeezes the button on the umbrella, and the lion gets shot and falls dead. The young man says, that's impossible. Somebody else must have shot him. He said, so now you understand what I'm saying.
That was actually pretty good, bro.
See? Advice from Uncle Brew. Somebody else shot that lion.
There you go.
Shout out to the Queen Mother, my wife, my daughter, Pops, the Red Belly, and all the Fighter Share Nation for tuning in. We really appreciate you. I'm going to turn it over to my brother. He'll probably hit you with some political BS and then close it out.
Yep, I was thinking about doing just that, so let me clear my throat before I do that. We'll see y'all tomorrow at the same time, same place on another episode where we just talk trash. Spread a little love. It's real out there, man. It's crazy. Fighter Nation, we'll see y'all tomorrow, same time. Make sure y'all on time. I will be. Peace.